was switch off. Dear members, dear partners, dear friends, it is my great pleasure to welcome you on this first CCBLR web launch after the summer break, marking the opening of our new business season 2025-2026. I hope you all had a good rest and are now in full shape for the months ahead. I would like to say that we will record the presentation, the presentation of our guest speaker, but the recording will be stopped before the Q&A session in order to ensure free and open exchange during the discussion. Today's session is designed as a post-summer refresh, an opportunity to take stock of where we stand now and to reflect on the practical realities for European companies operating in this region. I would also like to inform you that following today's webinar, we will circulate the questionnaire, the checklist prepared by our colleagues from Schneider Group for further analysis by our participant. Let me take this opportunity to warmly thank our today guest speaker, Dr. Thomas Mundry, partner, lawyer, head of legal and tax at Schneider Group, for joining us and for sharing his expertise with our community. Finally, I would like to draw your attention to our next web launch on 23 September 2025, which will focus on European sanctions and responsible business. It's mostly based on the recommendation of the European Commission how companies from Europe must operating lawfully in actual situation on exemptions, license, and etc. It will be on 23 September. With that, it is my pleasure to pass the floor to the president of our Belgian-Luxembourg Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Stefan van Doxelaar, for the welcoming word.
Thanks, Oleg. Also from my side, good morning, everybody, and I hope you had a refreshing and energizing summer break. Again, a lot happened, and I feel a bit like in March when there were high hopes that there was a breakthrough in the relationships and the negotiations between Russia, US, and Europe. And I think this summer we all had the same hope again, and even more because of the personal meetings of Mr. Trump, President Trump, and Mr. Putin, and also Zelensky and the European delegation. But I think the hopes are there, but realism is maybe less pink, let's say. So we're still in the same situation as we were 2 months ago or 2 years ago, that a lot of companies need to deal with the current way of working, the current restrictions, the sanctions. Sanctions are still expanding, and it doesn't make our lives as business people easier, also not the private part if you travel up and down or you need to do payments. So the hassle is still there. But I'm pleased that one of our good partners, Schneider Group, who is following everything into detail, is sharing with us some insights about what's happening, but some advice, what to do, stay, continuation. The last couple of months, there were more and more talks about re-entry, and also I see in the business environment that sometimes we have companies who are re-entering the Russian market, but not with a direct investment or with a local office, but start to sell their products again via the Emirates or via other ways, non-sanctioned products. And so we see that there is a bit more interest again, but still a lot of questions. And I'm very happy that Dr. Thomas and also Alexander here today will share with us our insights. So thanks a lot, and I'm one and all ear.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much, Oleg. Thank you very much, Stefan, for the introductory words. I'm very proud that I might speak on the first event of CCBLR after the summer break, at the beginning of the Russian school year, which coincides with the church year. And yeah, what I want to say, I share the view of you, Stefan. Yeah, we see currently developments in the general picture. There are peace talks starting between the US and between Russia on the one hand, and now I think a good sign for the Europeans, and then also the Ukraine is invited to this peace talks. So there is, I would say, some hope at the horizon. But Stefan, I fully agree with you. The situation, I would say, for foreign businesses has not yet substantially changed. It has not substantially changed. Most companies are hoping and are waiting for further news. On the other hand, what I already mentioned to Aliek when we started the talk, I just read in the morning an article in The Economist, the US Economist, and it's an article which compares the current situation regarding Ukraine with the situation in the 40s of the last century after finishing the war between Finland and the Soviet Union. Yeah, this was a fierce war. Finland defended the just achieved independence, from the Soviet Union and later from Sweden. But at the end of the day, they didn't won this war, and they had to cede certain territories, in particular Karelia and the Ladoga Lake, to the Soviet Union. And they had to promise, which is also important and which lasted until 2 years ago, they promised not to join NATO. Yeah, and the article says that this may be a direction, of pragmatism, which may be an example also for finishing the war in peace talks with Ukraine. And having read such an article in Economist means that in the general landscape, in the public landscape, there is some change, because 2 years ago you had not such articles in newspapers. You only had articles which showed into one direction, the direction of conflict, direction of war. And now you have an article, which shows an example as for a pragmatic solution of this war. This is something what I would say is new and which feeds the hope, for further success of the peace talks. Yeah, in general, what I can say regarding business, regarding foreign business in Russia, Schneider Group, we are a service provider. We are providing accounting services, legal and tax services, interim management services, IT services, and we are in close contact to foreign businesses. We are acting mainly for foreign businesses or for Russian subsidiaries of foreign businesses. So we have I would say a good view on what happens in the foreign business community in Russia. And there, what I can say is that immediately after the Ukraine war, what everybody knows is many companies left due to in order to comply with sanctions, in order for political reasons. They left the country, and this leaving of the country lasted, I would say, 1 or 2 years, and then it came to a stop, and very many foreign businesses, and I would say these are at least 70%, they stayed in Russia. And we have currently still, I would say, some sort of non-movement. The companies which are here, they stay. They continue their business. No further companies are leaving, but there are no new investments. And I would say there is a very nice document of FIAC from April, May of this year, which also very well describes the situation, and which complies with the view and experience which we have. We are always speaking to our clients. We are organizing workshops for our clients, discussing not only business issues but also the general political landscape, the general economic landscape. And the view which we have and which complies also with the view of FIAC is that that the current Russian business has remained resilient. Yeah, so there is a basis of foreign companies which have not left Russia, and most of these foreign companies are still working successfully, and they see less risks now in doing business in Russia than they saw a couple of years ago. There is general optimism of the businesses which we are in contact with about the financial performance. So that means companies which are working in Russia are not making losses. Yeah, they are working still successfully. And there's optimism about Russia's business outlook. We have heard much about EU sanctions, how they harm the Russian economy, and the feeling of the Western businesses in Russia is that this is not true. Russia is doing well in the current business climate, and so this also feeds the hope of further successful business of our clients. What are the reasons for staying in Russia for these companies? It's of course a positive business outlook, but they also see some social responsibility, in particular responsibility for their employees. And most businesses consider their Russian business as politically neutral. However, most, I would say, the Russian management, with which we are in contact, has no knowledge about the future plans of the EU headquarters. This is something which is still hidden. It is unclear for the Russian management here what the EU head offices are planning in the future. We also see that many functions of businesses are relocated from the EU head offices to the local offices. So that means that the head offices are staying aside and give more competence and more responsibility to the local management. What is also interesting is that the apparently the sanctions of the EU and the US have not led to a limitation or restriction of the access of the companies working in Russia to technological solutions. So that means the companies in Russia are still working with Western softwares. They are still working with Western technology. So there's no change in this, and this also complies with what we see in the aviation industry. Yeah, when the sanctions started, it was said that after half a year, the Russian aviation would not be able to continue flights, because they had no spare parts and no possibility to further maintain their fleets of aeroplanes. This is also not the case. Yeah, somehow the technology is still flowing from the West to Russia. What are the challenges? The challenges of the companies are mostly in the logistics sectors, in finding new suppliers for raw materials, equipment, and services, and also interesting in the hiring of new staff. So that's the picture what we see. And we currently also have the impression, and this also complies with what you said, Stefan, there is some hope that foreign businesses will return, and this hope currently concerns mostly US businesses. We have concrete certain requests from US companies, which we are prohibited to name, which intend to return to Russia and asking us how to establish a company, what about Russian sanctions, and so on and so on. So there is a slight hope at the horizon that the EU business, that the foreign businesses will return to Russia. And I fully comply with your view, Stefan. There is a difference between US companies and EU companies. There is more optimism on the side of the US companies than on the EU companies. But my personal view, this is really my personal view, is that the reluctance of EU businesses will last for a certain time. But at the end of the day, the EU businesses have no chance when the US come to terms with Russia to follow the path of the US. This may last, I don't know, a further half year or so. But then I think my personal view again is that the EU businesses will follow the path of the US businesses. That I would say is the general view which we have. On a personal side, what I would like to add is the feeling to live in Moscow is feeling in a big city, in a great international city, which currently does not give you the feeling of a country being in wars. I'm member of the board of the German school. The German school has less pupils than it had 3 or 4 years ago. Of course, the number has reduced, but nevertheless, there are 400 pupils in the German school. The German school is very much linked to the German embassy, because at the end of the day, it's maintained for the diplomats of the German embassy, and the German school is working properly, and the German embassy as well. So I would say there is in Moscow much usual business. I understand that this is also based on Russian politics, yeah, to not to show the war and the results of the war to the public, in particular in Moscow. Yeah, there's also maybe also a difference between Moscow and the regions, because many soldiers are stemming from regions, not from Moscow. I understand all this, but I just would like to reflect this feeling. So, yeah, that's the general view as I see it after returning from holidays. And let me now come to I hope it's not less boring, but to some legal issues. And I would start, Alek, you allow me. I would start with the Russian exit restrictions. Yeah, that means the restrictions which apply to Western businesses leaving Russia. You may say this is old stuff now, because the companies who have left have left. I to a certain extent agree with you, but I want to say that these exit restrictions show also give some background of the psychology of the intentions of Russia in relation to Western business, and therefore please allow me to give some overview on this. We have the mandatory pre-approval for certain types of transactions. There are, as you know, restrictions on the payout of dividends, loans, and IP royalties, and we have the Institute of Temporary Administration. Again, this all what I'm talking about now concerns Western businesses which still have the intention to leave the country. So, and yeah, under Russian laws, there is it is still the case that the alienation, the sale of real estate and share in Russian legal entities require the consent of the Subcommission of State Commission of Foreign Investments, the so-called Subcommission. This is something, yeah, which was really burdensome. It's for very many Western companies in Russia, and our company has dealt with many cases where where shares in Russian subsidiaries should be sold to either the Russian management or to another Russian buyers, and we always had to pass these procedures of the subcommission. But there's also a private aspect. Sale of real estate is also forbidden, and this concerns foreigners like Stefan, you, and myself. In Russia, I'm 30 years in Russia now, and at a certain point in time, I decided not to pay further rent, but to buy ownership of a flat, and I may not sell this flat at the moment. So that means I'm somehow bound with my flat to Russia and to Moscow. I may rent it out, yeah, which is no problem, and yeah, should this conflict last longer, I might inherit this ownership. But currently, yeah, there are restrictions on the sale. So, yeah, that's an important point. Yeah, what is necessary to receive the approval of the subcommission for the sale of shares? There are 2 reports which must be presented. One report is an appraisal report prepared by Russian licensed appraiser, recommended by Ministry of Finance. Yeah, recommended. Interesting, which must be not older than 6 months, and an expert report on a Russian appraiser prepared by a Russian self-regulating organization of appraisers, also recommended by the Ministry of Finance. So there must be 2 reports on the evaluation on the value of the business, and they must be presented. And furthermore, the purchase price for the sale of the shares may not be more than 60% of the market price, and a donation must be made to the Russian budget in the amount of at least 35% of the market price. That's what is a condition for obtaining the approval. You may provide a call option. You may have heard this when McDonald's left the market. Yeah, they agreed on a call option with the Russian purchaser on the business. And such call options may be provided, but they may be exercised only at market price and only within 2 years from the date of the transaction. So that means if you want to exercise the call option, you are at least losing money, yeah, because you may sell at 60%, pay 35% in the budget, and you might buy back only on market price and only within 2 years from the date of the transaction. These are the conditions, and yeah, we have done work for many, mostly Schneider Group is very active with mid-sized businesses, maybe mostly for mid-sized businesses. And most of mid-sized businesses, they decided to sell the shares to the Russian management. It's a so-called management buyout, an MBO. We assisted, I don't know, 10, 15, 20 businesses in MBOs past the procedures before the subcommissions, made all the contractual framework. So, and MBO is working not for big businesses, because in an MBO, the management must be able to pay the purchase price. And if it's a small business, this is possible. If it's a distribution business, this is possible. But if it's a production company, the MBO, the management, the Russian management, will often hardly be able to pay a decent purchase price for this. So bigger investments were usually not sold within an MBO, but often transferred to an independent Russian investors. And examples include McDonald's, Schneider Electric, Henkel, Otis, Continental, Krone, Bridgestone, Bosch. Continental is for me, a very personal example. The sale, Continental, was, I would say, in my career, one of my most interesting mandate. I established for Continental the production plant in Kaluga near Moscow. It was a significant investment. And at the time of the establishment, the tire production plant of Continental in Kaluga was the most modern tire production plant of Continental in the world. And to see how this was sold for 50% of the price was, for me, I would say, personal, very, very disappointing and disappointing experience. Many companies used other ways to circumvent the regulatory requirements. They established a new Russian legal entity, transferred personnel and equipment to this Russian legal entity, liquidated the old company, and established contractual connections and links with the current EU headquarter, and worked, continued working, but were able to circumvent the procedures before the subcommission. So I've promised you to say you something about the psychology of behind this. I think there is one big difference between the rationale of EU sanctions and Russian sanctions. EU sanctions, the intention of EU sanction was to punish, to penalize, to damage the Russian economy, and the Russian sanctions, I would say, have not the intention to punish. Yeah, there is a business reason behind Russian sanctions, and when you see the restrictions for the sale of foreign businesses, this shows that the Russian Federation was and is interested in keeping foreign businesses in Russia, because Russia, despite all difficulties which you have with doing business in Russia, Russia was and is interested in attracting foreign businesses. Russia understands that it is a country with rich raw materials. Russia is one of the biggest raw materials supplier in the world. What is lacking is a functioning industry sector, and this starts with retrieving raw materials in Russia and continues with the automotive industry, with the machinery industry, with the chemical industry, and so on and so on. Russia has a vital interest in keeping foreign business in Russia, and this will also have an impact on what I'm telling you regarding the re-entry restrictions which we have to face. So that is foreign business restriction of foreign businesses to leave the Russian market. You also know the foreign currency restrictions. There are restrictions on the payout of dividends in place, so that a Russian subsidiary is restricted in paying dividends to its German or European headquarter. It may transfer not more than 10 million rubles per month. Yeah, if it wants to transfer more, it again requires the approval of the subcommission and may use only this restricted C account, which is of no use for an investor. And this restriction also is a restriction which is not done to punish the investor. It is a restriction which is necessary in the view of the central bank of the Russian Federation to protect the currency. Here we also have, again, the rationale behind this. The sanction it's not really a sanction. Yeah, it's a measure for the protection of the Russian currency. Temporary administration is also something which was introduced. Temporary administration may be imposed on persons associated with unfriendly states or persons controlled by such persons if they have assets in Russia. There are some interesting examples like Carlsberg and Danone. This is also what happened, and also, again, the idea behind it was to keep the foreign business and to exploit the foreign business in Russia. So this is regarding the exit from Russia. And now some words to the Russian re-entry restrictions. This is also very interesting because it also very well shows what Russia thinks, what Russia wants to achieve. Yeah, for the re-entry, this is also not a sanction, but a measure which was enacted by Russia. Not now, when we are talking about the re-entry of Western businesses in Russia, but it was enacted already in 2022. That means when Russia started to restrict the exit of foreign businesses from Russia, it already thought about what happens when the companies want to return. Yeah. So basis for all these restrictions is a decree of the president of 2022, and it provides that the approval by the governmental subcommission is required for certain actions which are necessary to do investments in Russia, in particular for the establishment of a legal entity by founders from unfriendly countries, also by the execution of a call option to buy back shares sold under approval, and other transactions with shares in Russian legal entities, in particular for financing increase of charter capital and exit of Russian shareholders. So if foreign businesses wants to return, at the current stage, it needs for most actions the approval of the subcommission. So, and what are the parameters for the granting of the approval? And there are, yeah, there are some publications with regard to the parameters. There are some legal documents in particular. What is said is that the subcommission looks whether the old business was liquidated. It looks whether an approval of the governmental subcommission for the sale of shares was received. It also has it looks on the time of the sale of the shares. Happened this after September 2022, which is a bit suspicious, or happened it before 2022, then it's politically less suspicious. Continued the company in a dormant modus, had it dismissed staff, had it a normal working regime within Russia. Political aspects are the protection of Russian national interests. So there is an individual approach regarding each business case. Also important are political declarations of foreign companies on the withdrawal from Russia and the support of Ukraine. This is what happened at the beginning of the conflict in 2022. Very many companies gave big declarations, and when these companies will come back, the subcommission will have a look at this as well. So there is not only this general legal framework, there are also different, I would say, bills discussed. That is not laws, but yeah, draft laws, which partly have passed reading in the Russian State Duma, or are discussed in the State Duma. And these, yeah, bills also give a view on the current situation, how Russia looks at the return of foreign companies. One bill is rather interesting. It provides that the foreign businesses which intends to return to Russia must make annual contributions of 2% of the revenue from its Russian business. Yeah, so it means the company may come back, but it has to pay 2% of its revenue to this fund of technological sovereignty. It applies, and this is also very interesting, to investors from unfriendly countries, but upon individual decision of the president of Russia. And here is a bit, I would say, some sort of punishment. Yeah, that means it does not apply to all investors. Yeah, it applies only to some investors. So that means Russia wants to take a decision on which investors are welcome, yeah, which investors are necessary, and which investors are not so welcome, and then they have to pay this contribution. So there is a bill on buyback options. Yeah, we have this. This was, yeah, at the beginning, yeah, I would say a contractual measure which many Western businesses provided in agreements, as McDonald's, as I mentioned ago. But and the bill applies to buyback options. Yeah, when a foreign business has the option to buy back the Russian business, there are certain limitations. Yeah, so this bill provides that the current Russian shareholder may refuse to satisfy the option if the option price is less than the market value. And there also is a right of prohibition by decision of the Russian authorities in single cases. So that also means that in certain cases, Russia wants to keep the foreign business in the former foreign business in the hands of the current shareholders. Yeah, what are also, yeah, then there are further general ideas which are, I would say, rather nasty for foreign businesses. So some bills foresee that foreign investors maybe work only through joint ventures, and they must have a joint venture partner which holds the majority of the shares. This is not nice. Yeah, so that means that restricts the Western business very much. Yeah, repurchase of share at market price. This is what I already mentioned. So, yeah, and there are further requirements which are discussed, which were also always, yeah, the aim is always to limit, yeah, to keep the technology in the country, and so on, and also, yeah, one is the obligation to provide charitable contributions into the economy of Crimea and other regions. These are, I would say, these are political bills of groups which are not so interested in attracting new business to Russia. My personal view is that this does not comply with the general view of Russia and the Russian government. The Russian government, as I told at the beginning, has in principle the interest to maintain foreign business in Russia and to attract Russian business. And into this direction points a new presidential decree, which was signed on 1st July 2025. The presidential decree is named Additional Rights of Foreign Investors, and this presidential decree has been enacted. It is in place, and this shows in a totally different direction. Yeah, it shows the interest of the Russian Federation to, I would say, to lift the so-called Russian sanctions and to enable business to return. I just say it hints into that direction. The presidential decree is in its scope of application rather limited. It concerns only the activity of foreign investors with regard to Russian securities, bank deposits, and agreements on financial instruments in the financial market of Russia. So it's very, very limited, and it does not concern the investments about which we are talking currently, but it concerns Russian, not Western individuals, Western foreign investors into the security markets of the Russian Federation. And this decree, on the one hand, exempts this activity from most important sanctions, in particular from the sanctions to transfer profits from Russia to abroad. That's the one and the nice thing, yeah. The interesting thing is that Russia still wants to observe what is happening, and therefore, by this decree, a new type of account is created. That's the so-called in-type account, yeah, for funds in ruble and in non-Russian currency. And investors who want to work with Russian securities must use this in-type account, yeah, for doing their business. And that means, of course, and that points into a, what I would say, not very good direction for foreign businesses. Russia, on the one hand, wants to exempt from its sanctions, it wants to get rid of the sanctions, but Russia wants to control what's happening. And this may be something which we also have to face in the future. Yeah, Russia is willing to re-attract foreign business to Russia on the one hand, but on the other hand, it wants to keep its hand on this business. It wants to control this business. This is, but that's a rather, I would say, general view. I also do not know. I can have a look into the glass bowl. I also do not know what really will happen. But I see currently in the glass bowl the interest of attracting foreign businesses and to control the foreign businesses. But basis for everything what we are talking about is, of course, is a successful end of the peace talks between hopefully all four parties. So, and that's with these words, with good hope for the future, I would like to finish my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Sorry, I have to forgotten one thing.
Yes.
The SCHNEIDER Group checklist. our Schneider Group is able, to advise you on remaining in Russia, exiting from Russia, and returning to Russia. And so you have created the checklist, which Alec, I would kindly ask you to distribute among all of our listeners. It gives you a good, I would say, rule on what to think when you have plans to remain, exit, or return. Thank you. That's it now.
Thank you, Thomas. Really, we will share today this list with all the members. If someone will not present today, will not receive it by email, I don't know, it's come to spam or something, please write me and I will then send you by other opportunities. We will then thank you again, Dr. Mundry. We will stop then the recording and we will pass to the Q&A session.
Yes, Dr. Mundry, thanks a lot. I think there are two points. I have the more general view in the beginning and then the more legal. On the general view, I have two